In today's video, we're gonna go over 8 reasons as to why you should play a Session 0. Hey folks, my name is Benson from Initial Roll. Today we're back with another weekly video, and in this video, I'm gonna go over 8 reasons as to why you should play a Session 0. Now, I would define a Session 0 as a sort of pre-session, right? It's a session where you're rolling dice for the first time, you're in your characters for the first time, you're trying everything new, and there's a lot of reasons why you should do this, both either as a player, you should be asking your DM for a Session 0, or as a DM, you should be providing a Session 0 for your players, and I'm going to give you 8 reasons why that should be the case in this video. First reason is that this is going to be your first time feeling out your new character. So that's a reason you should play a Session 0. This will allow you to feel out your character, to get a sense of their personality, their voice, how they interact with the world. I remember one time a buddy of mine changed voices about 4 times in our Session 0 because it just wasn't fitting or it wasn't what he imagined it would be. A Session 0 allows you to feel out your character in a very safe way, to try new things, new voices, to approach things differently. And then by the time your first session comes around, hopefully you won't be in these new shoes for the first time. They'll be at least broken in a little bit. Building on that, my second point is this. A Session 0 will give you a chance to test out your new spells and abilities. Each class and race is going to have its own abilities, its own spells, its own traits, things like that. And a Session 0 is going to let you actually play. It's going to let you try these things out. If you're used to playing a magic class that has spells to heal you and solve problems with spells like thaumaturgy and things like that, it's going to be really different if you're playing a rogue who needs to use a lot more stealth and their cunningness in order to solve problems. That's going to be quite different. But Session 0 is going to give you the chance to try out your new abilities and your new spells in a relatively low risk environment. My third point is this. It is that you get to ask questions. In a Session 0, we're setting the scene, but also it's a great time for players to ask questions of their DM. How does this mechanic work? How does Second Wind work? How does Turn Undead work? How do I go about dealing with things like grappling? How do you approach things like swimming speed or being poisoned? How much does it cost? If I want to create a magical potion of healing? Session 0s are a great chance to ask questions, right? Usually, especially if it's a one-on-one setting, it's very easy to stop the game, pause the game for a second, and just ask some questions for clarity of your character and your abilities and your spells and what direction you want to go in. For the DM as well, this is a great chance for you to get to know your players, get to ask them questions about how they view their character, how their character views the world, how they view conflict, where actually is their moral line? Are they really a lawful character? Are they really a good character? These are great times to ask these questions and flesh this out before the main story and the main game. The fourth reason is this. Session 0s are a great time to flesh out backstory. Undoubtedly, if you've rolled for a backstory or if you've actually written one, as a player, you're going to bring a backstory into the game. And Session 0 is a great chance for the DM to personally invest, personally take time to respond to your backstory. If your backstory is that of an urchin who grew up on the streets, well, maybe you can do urchin-y things or utilize that somehow. Maybe you're an acolyte who was part of some religious temple. Well, this is a chance for you to take the time you need to interact with that backstory. And if you're a DM, my other point is this, is it's a great time to add story elements in conjunction with your player's backstory. Session 0s are a great time to set up personal story elements for that player. In the larger, broad campaign, there's going to be story elements for the group as a whole and for the world, but sometimes it can be difficult to set up personal story moments for individual players. And this is where Session 0 is a great chance to do this. My reason number 6 is this, is that you get one-on-one time. As a player and as a DM, I think one-on-one time is the best. Sometimes it's my favorite part of the game where I get to just sit down one-on-one with a player and really just play the game. It's very focused. You have to be very on, but it's very personal. It's personal in the fact that we get to create this experience together and you get to learn about each other. A player will learn a DM's style and what they prefer to do, what roles they like to get you to make, what kind of villains they like to bring in, how they approach things like combat. And for a DM, you get to see a side of your player very in-depthly and focus on how they actually are dealing with the game, what they might be struggling with, what they're bringing into the game, what they might really excel at. So because it's such a one-on-one time and such a personal experience, I think Session 0s are really important to building the relationship between the player and the DM. My 7th reason is this, that this is a chance to fix anything before the campaign begins. So many times after a session 0, a player will say, hey, actually these spells that I picked I don't actually like, or I don't think I'm actually going to use, or they didn't work out the way that I expected. Or they might say, actually, you know, I took these traits and talents and feats that I thought were really good, but they really aren't. Is it okay to change that? And session zeros are a great place to test these things and then get rid of what you don't like. You should be able to play the game that you want, and your character should be specific to how you want your character to be. So this is a great chance that hopefully your session 0 doesn't influence the main campaign, but it's a great kind of trial run before the main thing starts. My last and final reason is that session 0s are super memorable experiences. There's been amazing times where I've brought parties, you know, to fight giant bosses, dragons, beholders, things like that have been so memorable and amazing. But if I'm honest, I think some of my most memorable moments role-playing and running a game for people is actually in session 0s. It's actually in personal one-on-one sessions. You can get so deep and experiences can be so memorable between you and the player, or between the player and the DM. You know, for that moment, for that time that you have together, it's personal. You know, it's handcrafted, hopefully, to your character, or to the campaign, to your backstory, to your class, to your abilities, things like that. It can be a meaningful moment to gift a special item, to have a bit of extended role play with a significant character in your backstory. I think because of that, session 0s can be so memorable, and they're one of my favorite things to run for people. Folks, thank you so much for hanging with me. I hope these quick 8 reasons as to why you should play a session 0 were helpful to you, whether you're a player or a DM. I just ran a bunch of them in the last 2 weeks. I ran about 4 of them and they were awesome. We are streaming live on Twitch. I believe I'll be uploading this Saturday, so it'll be tonight at 7 EST at twitch.tv/Shuli. We have a game called Initial Roll that's really friendly to new players. If you're interested in that, check it out. It's a lot of fun. It's hilarious. I also have a website, initialroll.com, where if you go down to the bottom, you can click book now, and I'll run you a free one-shot. I would love to do that, and it would be an amazing time to get to know you better. If you like this video, please like it. You can also subscribe if you want to see more of what I'll be pumping out. I'm going to be releasing a series on making characters for players, and I'm going to start releasing series for new dungeon masters as well. Some quick tips and tricks that I've learned over the years. Finally, thank you so much for all the support that you've shown me over the last couple weeks of launching this. This wouldn't happen without you. I want this channel to be for you, and I want it to be dedicated to you and to the game, and to sharing the joy and the passion of the game with others. So until next time, keep rolling.